Most people think the Polaris RZR Pro R Max 2026 is just a stretched Pro R with extra seats. That's the lazy take, and I don't think it's true at all. When I really sat down and compared it to the standard Pro R, what jumped out at me wasn't the length or passenger count, it was the intent behind it. This machine feels like Polaris quietly admitting that hardcore off-roaders also want to bring people along without watering down performance. I noticed this the moment I looked at the chassis layout. Yes, it's longer. Yes, it's heavier. But the proportions don't scream family side-by-side. They scream desert race truck energy with seatbelts for your friends. Most people miss this. Polaris didn't build the Pro R Max to compete with casual four-seaters. They built it to keep Pro R owners from downsizing when they need more seats. That's a big difference. When I compare it to other four-seat performance UTVs, the Pro R Max feels less like a compromise and more like a challenge. It's basically asking, how far can we push a four-seater before it stops feeling like a weapon? And honestly, it gets further than I expected. The engine choice is where I had my first doubt. Naturally aspirated, no turbo. On paper, that sounds like a weird move in 2026, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. This machine isn't chasing spec sheet bragging rights. It's chasing consistency, heat control, and reliability when you're loaded with passengers and gear. What surprised me was how that decision changes the personality of the Pro R Max. It's not frantic. It's not trying to rip your arms off. It feels deliberate, planted, and predictable, especially at speed. That's something turbo machines often struggle with once you add weight. A misconception I keep seeing is that heavier four-seaters can't feel agile. That's only true if the suspension tuning is lazy, and Polaris clearly didn't phone this one in. The long travel suspension setup looks like it was designed backwards from the worst-case scenario, fully loaded, high-speed terrain, long distances. That mindset shows. Most people focus on peak travel numbers, but what matters more is how the suspension settles. From what I can tell, the Pro R Max prioritizes composure over flash. That's a huge deal if you actually ride for hours instead of minutes. Here's a practical takeaway. If you're the kind of rider who pushes hard early and fades late, this machine is built for you. It rewards smooth inputs and punishes sloppy driving less than you'd expect for its size. Interior space is another area people underestimate. More seats doesn't automatically mean more comfort, but I noticed Polaris didn't just add rows, they reshaped the cockpit experience. Passengers don't feel like cargo, they feel involved. That matters more than most buyers realize, because once passengers feel comfortable, you ride differently. You take longer trips, you explore instead of sprinting. That's where the Pro R Max quietly separates itself from race-inspired two-seaters. One mistake people make is assuming this is a beginner-friendly machine. It's not. Yes, it's stable. Yes, it's predictable. But the size demands respect. If you don't think ahead, it will remind you how much mass you're managing. That's not a flaw, it's honesty. Compared to something like a turbocharged four-seater, the Pro R Max feels more confident under sustained abuse. Less drama, less heat anxiety, less waiting for boost to behave. That kind of calm is addictive once you experience it. Another thing I don't hear enough people talk about is ownership mindset. This machine feels designed for people who keep their vehicles for years, not seasons. Maintenance access, durability choices, the overall use it hard, fix it less vibe. Those details don't show up in marketing photos, but they matter in real life. Here's a small insight most buyers overlook. If you plan to modify heavily, starting with a naturally aspirated platform often gives you more control long-term. You decide how wild it gets. You're not fighting factory limits from day one. When I step back and look at the Polaris RZR Pro R Max 2026 as a whole, it feels like a confidence move. Not loud, not desperate, just quietly saying, this is how we think performance four-seaters should evolve. And I respect that. It's not for everyone. If you want instant adrenaline and numbers to brag about, there are louder options. But if you want something that feels engineered instead of marketed, this one sticks with you. The more I think about it, the more it feels like a machine you grow into, not out of. And honestly, that's the kind of off-road vehicle I'd rather live with.